Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Profits. We're so excited to have you guys here today. We're going to be talking about kind of a controversial topic. Is this the best running back draft class ever? Okay, so here's one of the things, first of all, we'd like to clarify. We haven't seen these guys play a down of official NFL football in the regular season that's going to count. And we're not going to sit back here and say, well, we're certain of that, or we're going to argue that. And it's very hard for us to even compare them to other draft classes simply because we haven't seen them really play. So we're going to kind of play devil's advocate here in this fun, exciting video. We're going to fight for reasons why we think all of these running backs are going to be great and have great careers. And of course, as always, we're the Fantasy Football Profits, so we're going to take this more from a fantasy perspective. And while we're not saying that this is the best running back draft class ever, we do think it's a great one. And every player that we're naming are guys that we're telling you that you should be watching in your fantasy leagues. So these are guys to take note of, take late in your draft, at least watch, pay attention to. So, Rob, you have anything to say before we start, or would you like to kick us off?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. You know what? Like you said, premature to say that this is the best running back class ever. But I will say this. As I've been studying and looking, and day to day we go back, we reevaluate, we look at news and notes around the NFL, what's happening, and we're going to break it down. And we fluctuate our rankings almost daily based on new information. The one thing that I realize as I've been studying every day and looking at this, more and more I'm comfortable with the running backs that are coming into the draft. I'm comfortable. I believe a lot of these guys will come in and have an immediate impact in the NFL. And so I've gained more confidence in how solid this running back class is. I feel better and better about some of the picks out there. And I would say oftentimes going into a draft, maybe there's one or two running backs that, I really kind of have my eye on as far as guys that I think can immediately impact. Right now, I'd have to say there's about 6 to 8 guys that I feel can come in this first year and have a great season. So I'm really comfortable. Now, when we look at talent, I kind of break it down to 3 things when evaluating fantasy football talent. And that's this. One, we look at their opportunity. That's huge. No matter how talented they are, if they don't have the opportunity, it doesn't matter. We look at their talent, obviously. We look at their college career, their measurements. We look at the combine, things like that. And then we look at the right team situation. No matter how talented he is, even if he has an opportunity, he's got to have the right surrounding cast. He has to have a coach that has the right philosophy that they're a good fit for. And so those are some things we'll look at. Once again, I feel like looking back years from now, this could be one of the, if not the best running back class we've seen in a while. And the other thing I realized today as we've been looking at this and studying, what we find is almost all of these men had really stellar college careers. And so with that said, when we're all said and done, we want to hear your thoughts on this class, and we want to hear maybe some other classes of running backs that you thought were great. But Chris, why don't you kick us off with the first guy you want to discuss out of this class?
All right, so no surprise here. Going to start us off talking about Leonard Fournette. So I like Leonard Fournette for a lot of obvious reasons, but let's just get the kind of the elephant in the room out of the way and talk about his health. Currently, people are a little bit worried about him not practicing so far, not having played in those preseason games. And I'm just going to start off by telling you, don't worry about this kind of this hype on him being a bad back or that he's not going to be healthy all season. The Jaguars are just being careful with their franchise running back. They took him 4th overall. They're really excited about this guy. But if you took a guy you think could be a franchise star, that could be the face of your franchise for years to come, are you going to blow him out before you even get to use him in a regular season game? Of course not. That would be stupid. So they're just trying to let him heal, let him get fully healthy, and slowly work him back. And just remember, he's still learning that offense. So he has time, and there's still things that he can do to progress as a player without being on the field. Now, of course, we want to see him get on the field, but be patient and don't be alarmed. The other thing that I want to say is in a non-PPR league, he is probably, if not he's probably 1st or 2nd running back. If you're in a PPR league, I would say he comes in 2nd behind Christian McCaffrey as far as fantasy value goes. But in a non-PPR, he's a physical beast. Love the guy. So excited to see what he can do. So that's the second point. In a non-PPR league, he has far more value. So the third thing is this guy, his size and his physicality. At 6 feet, 228 pounds, he ran a 4.51 40-yard dash. He had a great combine. In fact, his combine review compared him to Adrian Peterson and Bo Jackson. And his combine review said this, and I quote, "Built like a linebacker with speed like a receiver. Long, powerful strides. Get speedy turnover. Click-and-go runner who hits his second gear faster than most big backs you'll ever see." Those are raving reviews that rarely, if ever, come from the combine. Another thing that I'm really excited about is Coach Doug Marone's praise. Praised him for showing up to camp in more shape than he's seen a running back ever come to camp in, moving well in drills, displaying pass-catching ability, and is able to retain terminology in the Jaguars' offensive playbook. And the other thing we talked about is the opportunity. The job there is really his. I mean, TJ Yeldon and Chris Ivory, they're not in contention for that role. It's been pretty firmly Fournette's job since the second he got drafted. Those guys have been really unimpressive, and so he doesn't have to do much just to be the starter, but I think he's going to do a lot and be a great starter. Finally, he's in a great situation. Jacksonville's passing attack has been not so great last year. The year before was a little bit better, and we were talking about this the other day, right, Rob? Blake Bortles has been not great, and they're going to really rely on this young back. They've been working on their defense. They drafted him. I think they're going to play a bit more conservative and stick to the run. But the one thing to note is some teams have kind of liabilities for their running backs. When their quarterback and their passing game is so bad that teams can stack the box. For example, if you're playing the Jets, that running back is going to get the box stacked because he just does not have he just doesn't have a passing game to keep the defense honest. But I tell you what, they've got some good wide receivers there, and Allen Robinson and Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns, and Bortles I think will be just good enough. So I don't think that that's another problem either. I think it's a perfect situation. Kind of compare it to the poor man's Ezekiel Elliott Dallas Cowboys situation where good offensive line, great running back, maybe not going to be as good as Ezekiel Elliott, but I like him. So that's my first guy, Leonard Fournette. He's a guy I'd take in the first or maybe first, definitely second round at running back. But do you have any comments, Rob?
Yeah, what's not to love about this guy? I think that he's going to have a great season. I think he's got all the tools to be successful. I agree with all your points. I'm not sure if I'd take him in the first round. I get a little nervous about rookie running backs, but I definitely could see me taking him early in the second round. If I have a concern, once again, it has nothing to do with him. It's only to do with Blake Bortles. In fact, tonight Blake's playing in the preseason, and we looked at his numbers and we're looking at the game, and he's really struggling. Blake is running into a lot of issues. They said he had a dead arm in camp. We're noticing even his teammates are getting frustrated with him. Allen Robinson spoke out recently about his frustration. He threw 5 picks in drills. And so right now, Blake Bortles is really the only concern I have. When I take that out of the equation, I look at him and everything else, I think this guy's poised to be a poor man's Ezekiel Elliott this year. And the only reason why I think that he really won't have as good a year as Ezekiel is the offensive line. Dallas's offensive line is the best in the NFL, where Jacksonville is kind of in the bottom third. But other than that, yeah, I love Leonard Fournette. I think he's going to have a great season and a great career.
All right, so Rob, what about you? Who's your first guy that you want to talk about?
Well, so here's another reason why I think this is going to be a great draft class. This guy, Christian McCaffrey. What's not to love about this guy? He's 5'11", 205. He's 21 years old. He was drafted in the first round, 8th overall by Carolina, and he went to Stanford. Where do I begin? One, he had a prestigious college career. You look at his numbers, he didn't really play a lot his freshman year, but his sophomore and his junior year, he took off. In fact, his sophomore year, he had over 2,000 yards rushing. 2,000 yards rushing. And then he's only one of 31 players in college football that have ever had 2,000 yards rushing, right? And I just want to share some names, kind of the elite group that he joins there, other running backs that have had 2,000 yards in a single season in their career. So he's going to join guys like Barry Sanders, Melvin Gordon, Marcus Allen, LaDainian Tomlinson, Matt Forte, Ricky Williams, Ray Rice, and just filled with all these talented players. So he had a prestigious college career. He did it at a very high level, playing for a good college and a good competition. The other thing that's impressive about that number is not only he had 2,000 yards, but that wasn't done simply because of volume of carries. If you look at all those players and the ones that had 2,000 yards in a single season, his yards per carry were better than all of them except for 2. And so this is a guy that didn't just get 2,000 yards based on volume. He was a productive runner. He was excellent. But here's what I love about this guy. Okay, we talk about how he can run the ball, this and that. He is a little bit undersized, but what makes him a great pick, he has phenomenal hands. This guy has great hands. In fact, some say his hands are good as some of the best wide receivers come on the draft this year. He catches everything. In fact, that's what really struck me in college. Yes, he had 2,000 yards rushing in a single season, but when I look his last 2 seasons, he had 82 catches in 25 games. That's an average of 3.28 catches per game. He's a serious and immediate threat in the passing game, which nowadays in the NFL, if you can't catch the ball, you're not going to get on the field.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Even in fantasy nowadays, it's hard drafting a running back if he's not going to make catches. It makes such a big difference, especially in PPR leagues, to be able to catch the ball as a running back. So yeah, I mean, that is huge for me, especially in a PPR league. I got to take him even before Fournette. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah, you kind of got ahead of me on that one. I was going to say that in the very end here. And speaking of Christian McCaffrey's, if you're in a PPR league, he becomes my number one guy. Now, if you're in a standard league, then I would say I'd put Fournette ahead of him. But if you're in a PPR, he's my guy. I go after him aggressively in terms of rookie running backs. This guy can do it all. In fact, of all the running backs, he by far has the best. Now, he's a little undersized. Okay, what that makes me think is the first year in the NFL, he's going to see a lot of touches. But I think that Stewart's going to get a lot of those carries until Christian McCaffrey can prove that he can be durable enough to become an every down back. But once again, that's not going to matter because you're going to see him in passing downs. They're going to make sure to get the ball in his hands. Another thing I love about this guy, rave reviews. Not a day goes by, whether it's in a game or practice, that people aren't just talking about how amazing a player he is. And this bodes well. In fact, it bodes well when your competition is speaking rave reviews for you. And Carolina running back Jonathan Stewart, once again, the guy that he's competing with for the number one spot, said this about his competition. He said he's impressed with McCaffrey. For one, you guys noticed that we have number 22 out there. He said he's pretty unstoppable as far as coming out of the backfield and running routes. He's a special player. To me, that's huge when your competition says that you're a special player. He's amazed. In fact, they wanted to say in that article, if you read it, talks about that linebackers and defensive backs, when they're one-on-one out him in open field, he really makes them look silly. In fact, there was one player that recently got kicked out of practice because he put such a move on him. It was a non-contact drill, but the guy lost it, fell over, tripped over his own feet, and hit him below the knees. And later on he told the coach that he didn't mean to hit him below the knees, but that he put such moves on that he juked him so badly that all he could do was just kind of crumble. And once again, just hearing these rave reviews week after week, game after game, this guy's doing it all. He can run the ball. He's fast, explosive, has great hands, works hard. He's phenomenal. I think he's going to have an amazing career once again. My only concern is durability. So let's break down the three things that I said about it. We look at talent, opportunity, and team. Well, looking at his talent, no doubt, he has all the talent in the world. Size is a big concern, although he's not small. He's not a big back. Opportunity, Jonathan Stewart's going to take a few carries from him, but I think it's not going to matter because maybe he only gets 10 carries a game, but I think you're also going to see him probably get 5 catches a game, and so that's going to be a good balance out for him. He'll be all right in the end. As far as teams go, he's got a good offensive line there and a great quarterback, and so overall, his team around him, surrounding cast, is very good. I think Christian McCaffrey's going to have a good season. I think he's going to have a great career. He's another reason why I think this could be one of the best running back classes we've seen in a long time, if not ever. Christian, who's your next guy?
All right, well, before I get to my next guy, I just have to say I completely agree with you on basically everything that you said, so I kind of have to completely support you there. And my next guy is Joe Williams. So I'm really excited about Joe Williams from San Francisco. Many people haven't even actually heard of Joe Williams. He's been really under the radar, and I think in most draft classes he would be considered the top running back and he'd be getting a lot of excitement. But there's so much talent in this one, he's kind of dropped to the bottom. Also, additionally, because of San Francisco already has Hyde, I think that a lot of people are just counting him out immediately as a bench guy. But Here's what I got to say about him. Here's why I'm watching him. Here's a guy I'm going to stash on my bench in drafts. I'm just going to sit on him and wait because I tell you what, by the end of the season, that job is going to be his. First of all, he was a combine star. He was first of all, he was marked as a top performer with a 5.4 grade at the NFL Combine, which is far higher than average. He had a 4.41 40-yard dash and a 4.19 20-yard shuttle. Those are really great numbers. In this great running back draft class, those numbers still compared at the top compared to the rest of other guys around him. So we've seen that he's got a lot of talent, at least physically. At 5'11", 205, he's an elusive, quick, fast back, and so we know that he can do that. But I want to talk a bit about opportunity. First of all, Hyde has had a very lackluster, unimpressive career. First of all, he's never rushed for 1,000 yards in his career. Hyde has had poor health and can't seem to stay on the field. Even when he's been on the field, he doesn't always play great. He shows flashes of brilliance, but other times he kind of falls off and has some very flat games. Additionally, there's trade rumors that he might be sent to Denver. If he's sent to Denver, Joe Williams immediately becomes the sole starting back in San Francisco. But I tell you what, I don't think that he'll need to be sent to Denver. First of all, like I said, with that health, Hyde isn't always going to be in the game. I bet you he doesn't make the whole season healthy. And additionally, even when he's been in the game, he's played okay. I didn't say he's been a horrible back, but I think it's just not 100% what San Francisco is looking for. I think they want more. Another thing that really impresses me is you look at inside reports. They're talking about how this is actually becoming a really close race. And I got to give the edge to Joe Williams in the fact that Kyle Shanahan was actually able to draft him. He was able to kind of get his pick kind of hand-selected in such a close race between running backs and who's getting the job. Being picked by the head coach and knowing for a fact that the head coach likes you becomes a huge advantage and takes you a long way in getting extra carries and extra time on the field. So that's extremely important. I really think that it's gives him a huge advantage that he was drafted by Shanahan, and it goes to show how much they like him. And then finally, NFL Insider and 49ers reporter stated in an article it would be not too shocking for Williams to unseat Hyde as the starter by week 1. He said that even if there are no injuries and there is no trade to Hyde, even if Hyde is still around, a 49ers reporter and NFL Insider said that he wouldn't be surprised if that became his job before week 1. Now, I think that if Hyde is healthy and he's not traded away, that it may take him a few more weeks than that. But by the end of the season, I believe that that will be Joe Williams' spot in the starting team. So what do you guys say about that, Rob? I know you probably got a lot of hesitations.
Actually, I don't. He's a guy that I kind of starting to fall in love with, and I think he's definitely under everybody's radar. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't notice him because we're in the same draft together, and so I want to steal this guy too. He's on my radar for the very same reason that you had stated. I want to add some points to what you had said there. One, Hyde's a free agent next year, so that's another thing. Even if Hyde sticks around, I don't think they're going to throw a lot of money at him. I think this is the future running back right here. Williams is going to be their guy. And two, there's other reports that Hyde is just not a good fit for Shanahan's system. And so everything seems to be indicating or pointing to the fact that Williams is going to be their guy. And so, yeah, I like him too. He's on my radar. I think a lot of people will ignore him. And in fact, I'm kind of hoping that they don't declare him the starter right away because I want to do the same thing you did, which is stash him on my bench and then a week or two and shock everybody when I have this steal.
You know, it's funny. Here's how confident I am in Joe Williams. I almost didn't want to talk about him in this video because I didn't want you to know about him. Like, I thought maybe there was a slim chance you wouldn't. Obviously, I knew you would, but I don't want to almost announce it to the world and then have him stolen away from me in drafts.
Well, and this goes back to the point. I was already on there today updating. If you go to our website, fantasyfootballprofits.com, that's profits with an S. I've already updated all my running back rankings, and I moved him up, and I included him in my trends upwards once again. And the reason why I point that out is when you look at our rankings, but they're not stagnant. They're not 2, 3 weeks or even months old. Day to day, we update it. So, guy Joe Williams, I noticed him today. He's on my radar. I bumped him up. Once again, if you have any questions, go there and you'll find all this information. Love the guy.
Yeah, so another pick we agree on. Rob, who's your next guy?
Well, my next guy, and another reason, once again, why I think this could be one of the best running back classes in a long time, if not ever, is Delvin Cook of Minnesota. This guy's 5'10", 110 pounds, 22 years old. He was drafted in the second round, 41st by the Vikings, and he went to Florida State. As I begin to look at this guy and how well he's performing, I hear all the great reports, I think this might turn out to be an amazing steal for the Vikings. He slipped to the second round, and yet this guy undoubtedly has first-round talent. Undoubted. In fact, the only reason why he slipped, there's some question marks about his ability to stay healthy, but beyond that, he has everything you want to see in a running back. One of the things that I hear a lot of is they're praising his work ethic. The coaches love him. He comes in, he prepares well, he works hard. Everything that you want to see. The guy's well ahead on that learning curve in terms of what a rookie is at. You look at his college career. This is a guy that played for a great college, Florida State. He played against some of the best competition defenses out there, and yet he was phenomenal. In his 3 years, his yards per carry were 5.9, 7.4, and 6.1. He had over 1,000 yards all 3 years. But his last year, and I think one of the things that I really like about him, now I'm certainly not going to say he's at that same level as Christian McCaffrey in terms of his ability to catch the ball, his hands. But he's definitely a guy who is a 3-down back. In fact, his senior year, he had 33 catches for 488 yards. This is a guy that's very valuable in the passing game. There's a lot to like about Delvin Cook. And I think a lot of running backs, when they come into the league, they can come in, they can run the ball really well, but the reason why they don't get in the game is they struggle to pick up pass protection and understand their role in the passing game and blocking coverage schemes, things like that. And so that's why they're not getting in the game. But they're saying right now that he's doing everything that he needs to do. He understands pass coverage, he understands blocking responsibilities, all those sort of things that he needs to do to get in the game he's doing. He's very effective at it, and so that's huge. In fact, they've praised his ability to understand and pick up the fine nuances of the passing game. And so once again, that bodes well for him. Now looking at his first preseason game for the Vikes, so here's what he did. 5 carries for 12 yards, that's not exciting, right? You don't look at that stat and you don't think, wow. But he did have 4 catches for 30 yards in limited time. So once again, he looked great in the passing game. Now he did struggle running the ball, but I don't think that has anything to do with Delvin Cook. What that has to do with, if you're covering the Vikings, you'll know this. They're still trying to figure out their offensive line. If you look at last year, their offensive line was horrible, and they struggled to run the ball. They brought a couple guys in, but they haven't been healthy. They haven't had a lot of time on the field together. And so the offensive line is struggling to find a good match, kind of shake things. Things are still trying to shake out in terms of that. So I think that's why he didn't dominate in the running game. But once again, if you watch it, he was flashing the passing game. He looked great. Another reason why I love him is the veterans on the team love him. Okay, and I love when the veterans do, because I think oftentimes a rookie will come in. Of course, the coach may praise him, the owner may praise him, but the other vets, they kind of haze the guy a little bit. You know, he needs to earn that praise. He needs to earn his time. But right now, the veterans love him. In fact, Kyle Rudolph said this about Delvin Cook. Okay, one, he said he's glad the team made the move to get him. He called the rookie running back a phenomenal player. He went on to say he's been very impressive throughout OTAs, minicamp. Once we put on the pads on in training camp, that's when you could really see things come to form in the run game. Rudolph said, it's no secret. I think he touched the ball 8 times in our first 13 plays in Buffalo last week. We're going to get him involved early and often. He really handled the load incredibly well. So you just go on and on. The praises you hear from everybody are just phenomenal. Once again, my only concern is his ability to stay healthy. Now, some would argue that of all the best backs, I've heard people say maybe Cook was, Mixon, McCaffrey, Fournette, but he was one of the backs that some people had said, some experts said, he was the best back coming out of the draft. Okay, so now let's come down to opportunity. Okay, I think coming out of the draft, everybody knew that he had the talent to be successful, but would he get in the game with veteran Latavius Murray in front of him? Well, Murray, he was on the PUP list. He had shoulder surgery in the offseason, and he was struggling to get on the field. Well, in the meantime, Cook immediately got on the field. He was able to run with the first-team offense and immediately impress the coaches. In fact, not only impressed the coaches, but I think right now Latavius Murray's a little bit in the doghouse with Coach Zimmer, as he hasn't been able to get out there and get a lot of touches and perform well. And so currently, he's listed as the team's #1 back. Talent. Let's look at the 3. Well, he's got all the talent. He's a 3-down back. He's an explosive run. He can catch the ball. Opportunity. I think the opportunity is good. I think Latavius Murray might steal a few carries for him, but I think this guy, they draft him to be their #1 guy in the future. Now, let's look at the final thing I evaluate in town. That's the team or surrounding cast, okay? I think he has a decent support system with Bradford and the wide receivers. The team philosophy leans towards conservative. They like to run the ball. That bodes well for him. The only thing that would hurt him this year is that offensive line is a process of rebuilding. Other than that, I love Delvin Cook. I love everything he brings to the table. He could be a great back and continue to contribute to one of the best draft classes we have in running backs.
All right, so I completely agree with you. And here's my next guy, Joe Mixon. Really excited about this guy. We were talking. There's kind of a top 4 that we really like: Joe Mixon, Delvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, and Christian McCaffrey. And I got to put Joe Mixon in there. Now, I'm usually very cautious with players who get in trouble and have off-field issues. In fact, you know me, when things started coming about Ezekiel Elliott, I was about 2 weeks early to drop Ezekiel Elliott a lot lower than most people. A lot of people said that I was crazy for dropping him so early, but I really don't like to deal with off-field issues. And yet Joe Mixon's had some off-field issues, but since his assault case, he has been in no trouble, and he's moved past it really well, and I actually don't think it's going to be an issue at all. So unless something else comes out, I think we play it like he's not going to get in trouble. I think we kind of just move on from it. The past is in the past. I don't think that it's going to continue to haunt him or be any issue for him. So that's the big thing, that we just get that out of the way, that I don't think that he's going to miss time from suspensions or anything. And that's huge, especially when you're looking for that next explosive running back or that next explosive fantasy players. You got to make sure they're on the field. My next point is he's kind of a triple threat. You normally hear double threat of guys who can run and catch. Mixon is a triple threat. He can run and catch, and he can block in the passing game, and that's huge for rookie running backs getting on the field. So first of all, let's talk about his running. His last year in college, he ran for 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and had 6.8 yards per carry. Those are crazy high numbers. 6.8 yards per carry. It's phenomenal. Then he had 500 yards and 5 touchdowns on 37 catches. So that, I mean, the guy can run, the guy can catch. Additionally, he is a great blocker. He can do all this because of his size and his speed. In fact, he's even a little bit, he weighs just as much and is 1 inch taller than Fournette, a guy who was praised for being a boy among men in college. So, you know, Joe Mixon has that size too. He can really throw his weight around, but he's still fast. I love it. He's still fast. His 40 was a 4.43 40-yard dash. That's very fast 40. In fact, that was marked as one of the leaders among all positions. Another thing that I like is that opportunity. We talk so much about how you can have all the talent in the world, but the opportunity isn't there. It's just not there. Well, I think it's there. Bernard is still recovering from his ACL tear, and many reports have said that he's still not quite back, and he's just a little bit slower than he used to be. And in the NFL, that little bit of speed makes a big difference. And we know that Cincinnati wants to move on from Jeremy Hill. It seems quite obvious. In the last 2 seasons, Jeremy Hill only averaged 3.7 yards per carry, and there's talk of them possibly trading him to the Giants, or you can just tell that they're not happy, that they want to move on. He's completely healthy, so why would they go out and draft a running back and try to get a guy like Joe Mixon so early in the draft? You know, I think they're just not happy with him, and they're kind of ready to find their guy and to be done with him. Finally, preseason and practice has told us a lot about him, and it's told us only good things. In his first preseason game, he got 6 carries for 31 yards and 1 catch for 11 yards. And a great block. You watched him take on a starting defensive end, and he held his own, and it was very impressive, and that's going to be huge for him staying on the field. But I really was proud of that catch that he made. He got 11 yards, but he stiff-armed a guy, he juked a guy, and he shed like 2 blockers at once. I mean, that was the most hard-fought 11 yards I've seen in a long time. So that was huge. But finally, you know, we'd love to see a coach who comes out and says good things about guys, who comes out and says a good thing about this player, why he's going to be good. Because if a coach says he's good, coaches usually don't just come out and say things to come out and talk. When they say things, it means something. And when a coach is happy with a guy, that guy's going to play. And here's what Coach Lewis said about him. He said his personality, his work ethic, how he comes and approaches everyday practice has impressed me so much. And so that, I think, speaks volumes for his character and his ability and his future. So once again, Joe Mixon, really excited about this guy. Rob, what do you have to say about that? You got any opinions?
Yeah, I like Joe Mixon. I know it's hard to get past what he did, and we're certainly not making excuses for it. That's unacceptable behavior, but it sounds to me that he's moved past that. He's trying to change his life and do better. You're right, a lot of people have spoken to his positive character he's displayed so far. I love this guy. I do. And you know what? As far as the opportunity goes, Hill, even if Hill did run the ball effectively, which he has in the last 2 years, Hill's really a one-dimensional player, whereas Mixon's not. And then Bernard, you're right, he's lost some quickness, and that was really the name of his game. If Bernard doesn't have the quickness, he doesn't really bring a lot to the table. I think Joe Mixon's the answer. Once again, these guys, I tell you what, if I get any one of these 4 guys that we've mentioned so far, I'm going to be very happy after the draft.
Yeah, that's the thing. You might have to give up an arm and a leg to get some of these guys. So let's hope that's not the case, especially in a league with me. I'm going to make you fight for these guys.
Well, you know, it's different. We're in straight draft leagues, and then we're in other leagues that are bid leagues. We have salary caps. In the bid leagues, I think you may have to pay a lot. So
yeah. All right, so who is your next guy, Rob?
Well, my next guy is Marlon Mack. Now, I want to say this. There's a lot of guys that we're not going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, that we just don't have time to talk about. But here's another guy that I like, Marlon Mack, playing for Indianapolis. He's 21 years old, and he is drafted the 4th round, 143rd by Indiana. He's out of South Florida. Now, there's some things that I like about this guy, and I think that he has a position to be very successful. But the thing to me that sticks out, why I think this guy could have a very good career and have a good shot in the first year or two to be successful, is opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. I can't say it enough. Now, one, I like the quarterback that he has. Now, there's some question about Luck being healthy, but when Luck is in the game, let's be honest, when Luck is on the field, defenses aren't nearly as concerned about who's getting the rock out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Okay, so right away that bodes well for whatever running back gets that ball. Luck is going to take a lot of that pressure off. Okay, I love Frank Gore. He's been a great back. He runs hard. This guy, many people are talking about a future Hall of Famer. He's been under the radar, but statistically speaking, he's up there. But Frank Gore is 34 years old. And in running back years, he might as well be 85 right now. This guy is old. He may have some gas in the tank for one more year. I've got to think we're going to see a major drop-off in Frank Gore this year. In fact, I wouldn't be all that surprised if this is not his last year in the league. So before I get into some of the other breakdown things I like about him, what are your thoughts? I guess I want to ask you on your take on Frank Gore and the situation. Then I'll get into more breakdowns on Marlon Mack.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think this is the year where kind of that last straw is broken, the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak, in Frank Gore's career. I think we're going to see a major drop-off. For years now, we've kind of been waiting for it to happen, and we've seen subtle drop-offs slowly. But I think this is a year that it all comes together. First of all, like you said, 34 is ancient. That is so old for a running back. Second of all, I think for the Indianapolis Colts, and you get a very athletic and talented running back like Marlon Mack in there, I think you instantly want to bring him into that lineup, see what he can do, use some of his youth and energy, and start developing him up as they try to build to win a Super Bowl. You have a good quarterback. I think they're going to try to build for the future. I don't know if they're really like, if we run with Frank Gore this year, we can win a Super Bowl. I think that the Colts are going to be perfectly fine moving on from him.
Yeah. So I look at Marlon Mack, and why do I like him? There's a lot of reasons to like him. One, he had a nice college career. He played for Southern Florida, and you look at he was in for 3 years, and all 3 years he had over 1,000 yards. But one of the things that I like about him is he had a nice statistical progression. Now, if we look at some of the other running backs that we have mentioned today, what you've noticed is they've maybe fluctuated. You look at, for example, 3 of the guys where the yards per carry fluctuated, where it went up their second year and dropped their third year, and there's a lot of reasons why that happened. But if you look at Marlon Mack, the first year, his yards per carry were 5.2, and went up to 6.6, and his final year 6.8. So you see that he became increasingly effective each year in terms of his ability to run the ball. The other thing that I like, and I think it's going to keep him effective in the passing games, he showed last year that he can catch the ball in the backfield. Now, he's not like Cook, and he's not like McCaffrey, but he's a guy that certainly can be in on passing down, so that's huge. Now, he did face weaker college competition playing for Southern Florida, and he didn't have the volume of work of other backs. But let's begin to look at, once again, the 3, the talent, opportunity, and team. Talent, I think he's shown the talent. He rated well out of the combine. He wasn't spectacular in any of the top 3, but he certainly rated well. He had a good college career. He's not a small back at 210, 5'11", so he's got decent size. As far as opportunity goes, I think he has a great opportunity here if he can really capture that. And team, he plays for a good team. When Luck is in the game, I think that he's surrounded by a good cast of players, so he's not going to be relied upon. I think it's a perfect situation for him. So he's a guy, once again, that keep in the back of your mind, watch his progression, keep an eye. We'll keep you updated on how he is doing. Christian, who's your next guy?
All right, so my next guy is Jamaal Williams. Really excited about Jamaal. I think he's one of these guys that has more opportunity than I think most other guys on this list, especially when you take into account all rookies and not just running backs. Drafted by Green Bay, and they took him 114th overall in the 4th round. And let me explain why they didn't take him higher. He absolutely has the talent. He broke and tied many BYU records. Very talented back. Here's why he actually fell in the draft a little bit. He was suspended for a whole year from playing football for BYU due to some misconduct off field. But this is a sort of misconduct that would never get him in trouble at any other college. It would never get him in this much trouble in the NFL. He was suspended for a whole year for having sex on campus. Now, I'm not here to be the moral police to say that that's right or that's wrong or that should or shouldn't happen, but in most colleges, they just cover it up and move on, and he wouldn't be suspended for a whole year.
In most colleges, that's just a normal weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we're talking about consensual sex, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's typically, I mean, you're right, that's unheard of in most colleges nowadays.
It wasn't rape. That's the important thing. It was consensual, but because he went to a very strict Catholic college, they suspended him for an entire season. Mormon college, thank you. Thank you for correcting me. And they made kind of a huge deal out of it, and I can understand their viewpoint, but I'm going to say that no other college would do that, and he handled it well. He stayed there, he kept up his grades, he kept practicing, he came back for another year. That was pretty great. Another thing that I want to talk about is his talent. It's actually my last bullet point, but I'm going to kind of get it over with now. I just want to talk about it now. He set some BYU records for touchdowns, yards, and points in a game. I believe he scored, just himself, he scored 30 points in a single game one time. I mean, the guy's athletic. We've seen he can do it. He's so talented, but due to this suspension for a whole year and a whole year off of football, a lot of teams were nervous about him, and he dropped to the 4th round. Another reason is because of all the talent in this draft. Okay, so let's talk about opportunity. First of all, even if, you know what, let's talk about, Ty Montgomery's health. Sorry, I'm a little bit scrambled in my brain right now. First of all, his health is really not there. I say, his health or a lack thereof is huge for a talented running back like Jamaal Williams to come in and show off his skills and prove that he can be the premier back. This is just the sort of injury and health problem that Jamaal Williams needed Ty Montgomery to have to kind of step in and be that guy and to show them what he can do. And so I think we're going to start seeing reports, and we're going to start seeing in preseason what he can do, and we're really excited to see that. More importantly, you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say, in fact, we posted an article on our website today and on our YouTube site that talks about Ty Montgomery now is injured, and because of it, Jamaal Williams is getting more touches, and he's drawing rave reviews from everybody. In fact, who really loves him right now is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Anyways, we just put an article in there that said exactly what you said just now. So.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Check out the site if you want to see this stuff even just a little bit earlier than we're able to post these videos. But another thing is, we have been very critical of Ty Montgomery. We're not big Ty Montgomery fans. And we've been saying all offseason to kind of avoid this guy. It's kind of a death trap, so to speak. But here's another thing. The Packers are still looking for a legit NFL running back. Even if Ty Montgomery stays healthy, he's not a running back per se so much as a utility guy and a wide receiver out of the backfield. He only got 77 carries last year. Even if Ty Montgomery keeps his role from last year and gets 77 carries, there's still room for another back to get on that field to show what he can do. And I think Jamaal Williams is just the guy. At 5'11", 235, he's the heaviest running back we've talked about so far. He's a bit of a bruiser, but he's still quick. Really excited about this guy. Got all the talent in the world, and now we're starting to see that he's got some opportunity. Rob, do you have anything to say about that? Or
No, I agree with you. Ty Montgomery. I totally agree with you. I'm not big on Ty. He did some neat things last year, but a lot of his statistics, a lot of his yards came when they're in passing situations or spread formations where defense were playing the pass, draw plays, things like that. I think it kind of elevated his yards per carry a little bit. And the bottom line is he doesn't have the physical body to be, I think, your every down back. Ty doesn't, but Jamaal does. He is kind of more of your pure runner. And so I think you're right. I could see Ty maybe having a good career. I think he could be impactful, but more as a gadget player. I don't see him being your guy. I love Jamaal Williams. In fact, I think you stole this one from me a little bit. I did a video on him recently where we discussed trending players. I like this guy too. He's another one that I definitely have on my radar. I hope to get my hands on and stash him on my bench.
One more thing I'd like to say that I almost didn't mention. I've heard people say that the Packers are passing the ball too much and their offensive line isn't good enough to support a good running back, or that they don't want to and they'd rather throw the ball all the time. But I'm going to say that's false. The Packers are looking for a good running back, and they can have a very good running back. I think that there's no reason why they can't have an 1,000-yard rusher. In fact, Eddie Lacy did it a few years ago. He was great. People loved him. They're just looking for another more consistent long-term Eddie Lacy that can do things, and I think Jamaal Williams is the guy.
Yeah,
so I
think
it's a real misconception to say that a Green Bay running back can't be a 1,000-yard rusher.
No doubt. I think they like Lacy. They want that game, but he couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't keep his weight down, and I think Jamal Anderson might be that answer they're looking for.
All right, so that's why you should be looking at Jamaal Williams. Rob, who's your final guy?
So my final guy is Semaj Perrine of Washington. Okay, now just like Jamal, he's the biggest back in the draft. They both are actually the same height and the same weight, 5'11", 235. So these are big physical backs. Played for Oklahoma, drafted in the 4th round by Washington. And so once again, he's one of the biggest backs that we have in the league. He's the same size as Jamaal. But I love the 235. To me, that's the frame and the size that can handle the punishing grind of being an NFL running back. Now, he didn't get as many carries as some of the other guys in college that we saw. Okay? And so if you look at his stats when he played for Oklahoma, as a freshman, he had 1,700 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. Then the next year, he followed it up with 1,349 yards, 6 yards carry. But then last year, his numbers dipped. Now, he did have over 1,000 yards, but he had a major fall off in his yards and his carries. But we contribute that very clearly to one reason. That's Joe Mixon. When you got Joe Mixon in the backfield sharing carries with you, you're going to get less carries. In fact, I would say this. Any of the guys that we mentioned today, any one of them, if they had to share carries with Joe Mixon, their numbers would have been decreased quite a bit. So don't let his college numbers that dipped his last year bother you. That was because he had shared carries with Mixon. Once again, this guy can carry the load. He did his freshman year. Now he's going to the Redskins. Now, if you look at the Redskins the last few years, what you find with the coach and the way they approach it is they love a guy that can run hard, who can pound the ball and get positive yards. In fact, last year, that's one of the reasons why they went with Robert Kelly, is because he always got positive yards. Nothing more frustrating for a coach when your running back gets stopped for a 2-yard loss and now you're looking at 2nd and 12. I'd rather, you're looking at 2nd and 8. That 4 yards seems insignificant, but it's trending the positive way. And offensive coordinators, coaches love a guy that can get positive yards. Now, this is why I think this is an intriguing situation for me right now for him in Washington there. Let's go back a few years when Alfred Morris was there. Now, Alfred Morris was their back, and he was actually a really solid back. He had some really good years. He had 4 consecutive years of 1,000 yards. Okay? And he was solid. He ran hard. He was physical. Now, the downside of Alfred Morris was he didn't really have the skill set to be a genuine 3-down back. He just didn't have great hands. And so he ran the ball really hard, but he was kind of one-dimensional. So here's what they did. They moved on. They tried Mac Jones, okay? Now, Mac Jones seemed to be more explosive. He seemed to have better hands, but he quickly fell out of favor with the team and the coach. He couldn't stay healthy. He had fumbling issues. So they moved on to Robert Kelly once again. The whole experiment didn't work with Mac Jones. They moved on to Robert Kelly. He enters the scene. Now, he is solid, but he's a lot like Alfred Morris. Built big, physical, can run hard, a one-cut back, okay? But just like Alfred Morris, he doesn't have great hands, and he's one-dimensional. So I think Robert Kelly might be the short-term answer, but he's not the long-term solution for the Redskins, and that leaves a door open for Perrine. Now, Perrine is 3 years younger than Kelly, and many experts feel that he's more adept in the passing game than Robert Kelly. So once again, that's going to give him a huge opportunity. We'll break down the 3. How does he stand in terms of talent, opportunity, and team? Well, as far as talent goes, he's big, physical. He played for a major college. He succeeded there. Certainly has all the things to be a every down back in terms of being physical and punishing runner. Opportunity, I think he has a very good opportunity right here once again. Now, I'm not sure that he's going to win it out of camp. I don't think that he's going to be the running back the first week, but I won't be all that surprised to see week after week he gets increased carries, and I won't be all that surprised if halfway through the season he becomes the #1 guy. As far as the team goes, I think there's a great team there. Got a good quarterback. They love a coach that loves to run the ball. He fits their scheme really well. So Semaj Perrine is another reason why I think that this draft class, as we look back 3, 4, or 5 years from now, could be one of the best ever.
Yeah, I agree with you about Perrine before we finish up here. It makes such a big difference in that offense, being able to play the pass. That offense passes the ball every year, top 10, maybe even top 5 for most passing attempts among all the other NFL teams. And so his ability to play the pass makes a bigger difference than it might on other teams that prefer to kind of run the ball first. So, yeah, that's just another thing to remember. That's going to make a big difference in that system, and they kind of need that guy to play out of the backfield. But as always, we thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate your continued support. Rob, do you have anything to say before we take off?
Well, maybe we should add in there. We're running a little contest out here, and if you want a free NFL jersey, you can go to our site. You can go to our video channel, and all you have to do is either subscribe or get somebody to subscribe. And every time you do that or somebody does that, your name gets entered in to win an NFL jersey. So once again, check us out. Get the word out there. Appreciate you guys coming to it. We're getting excited. Football season's right around the corner.